Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chesterton's Jest, where we shine an unflinching light on the joys, contradictions, and crises within today's Catholic Church and culture. If you're here for faith, wit, and a little righteous fire, you're in the right place. Smash that like button, share this video with your fellow troublemakers, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now then, shall we begin? Our topic, up for discussion today: the Patriots' heresy, how loving the country became divisive. Chapter 1. When love became suspicious. There was a time when loving one's country was considered a virtue so ordinary that it hardly required defense. Today it is treated as a dangerous emotion, something volatile that must be carefully monitored, qualified, and apologized for. Patriotism has not been outlawed, but it has been redefined into something conditional, something permissible, only if it remains quiet, abstract, and politically useful. The heresy of our age is not that America is imperfect, that much has always been obvious, but that loving the country requires ignoring its flaws or endorsing every chapter of its history. This false choice has turned affection into allegiance and loyalty into ideology. To love the nation is now assumed to mean hating someone else, which is a remarkable accusation against an emotion that once built schools, fought tyrannies, and buried its dead together. Chapter 2. Patriotism versus ideology. Patriotism is a love of home. Ideology is a love of ideas. The difference is crucial. A man can love his home while admitting it needs repair. An ideologue can only love his theory if reality cooperates. Patriotism tolerates complexity, contradiction, and inheritance. Ideology demands purity and conformity. Modern American politics increasingly treats patriotism as ideological aggression. Love of country is filtered through partisan suspicion. If one group claims it, the other must reject it. Flags become statements, anthems become provocations, and national symbols are repurposed as tools of accusation rather than reminders of shared obligation. What once united now signals affiliation, and affection itself becomes tribal. Chapter 3. The lie that love requires perfection. One of the most corrosive lies in American politics is that love requires moral perfection. Under this logic, to love the nation is to deny its sins, and to acknowledge its sins is to renounce love altogether. This is nonsense, but it is effective nonsense. It teaches citizens to relate to their country the way a prosecutor relates to a defendant, not the way a son relates to a father. No human being loves another by pretending they are flawless. Love persists precisely because flaws exist. A country is not an idea one agrees with. It is a people one belongs to. To demand moral perfection, as the price of affection is not moral seriousness, it is emotional cowardice masquerading as virtue. Chapter 4. The weaponization of shame. Shame has become one of the primary tools of American political control. Citizens are taught to feel embarrassed by their inheritance, suspicious of their traditions, and apologetic for their existence. History isn't taught as a complicated record of human struggle, but as a moral indictment demanding constant atonement. This does not produce humility. It produces resentment and silence. Ashamed people do not become wiser, they become fragmented. When love of country is framed as a moral failing, the only acceptable posture becomes detachment. Citizens are encouraged to critique endlessly while being discouraged from belonging deeply. Chapter 5. National memory and selective amnesia. Every nation remembers selectively, but modern America has elevated selective memory into a moral principle. Certain chapters of history are enlarged beyond proportion, while others are dismissed as irrelevant or embarrassing. Achievement becomes suspect. Failure becomes defining. The past is no longer a teacher, but a tribunal. A country that cannot remember honestly cannot govern wisely. Memory exists not to flatter, but to orient. When national memory is reduced to accusation, citizens lose a sense of continuity and responsibility. They inherit guilt without inheriting duty, which is a recipe for apathy rather than reform. Chapter 6. Unity without uniformity. The American experiment was never built on uniformity of thought. It was built on a shared commitment to a common civic home. Unity was achieved not by sameness, but by agreement on limits, laws, and obligations. Modern politics often reverses this formula, demanding ideological sameness while abandoning shared civic loyalty. This is why patriotism now feels dangerous to some and performative to others. When love of country is detached from shared responsibility, it becomes either suspect or shallow. Real patriotism is neither blind praise nor constant accusation. It is a willingness to remain invested even when disappointed. Chapter 7. When dissent is mistaken for disloyalty. Ironically, while patriotism is treated with suspicion, dissent is often weaponized. Criticism is encouraged not as an act of improvement, but as a demonstration of moral superiority. At the same time, genuine disagreement is increasingly framed as betrayal. The result is a culture that encourages noise but punishes thought. A healthy nation requires both loyalty and dissent, properly ordered. Loyalty without dissent becomes tyranny. Dissent without loyalty becomes sabotage. The collapse occurs when the two are treated as opposites rather than partners. Chapter 8. The cost of a loveless republic. A republic that cannot be loved cannot be sustained. Laws may be obeyed out of fear, but they are upheld out of affection. Sacrifice does not emerge from cynicism. No generation will preserve what it has been taught to despise. When patriotism is treated as heresy, the nation is left defenseless, not against enemies, but against indifference. People will not care for what they are told is unworthy of care. They will not protect what they are taught to distrust. Chapter 9. Recovering a mature patriotism. The answer is not blind nationalism or sentimental nostalgia. It is mature patriotism, a love strong enough to endure criticism without collapsing into self-hatred. A love that understands that inheritance is not endorsement, and responsibility is not guilt. To love one's country is not to declare it flawless, but to refuse to abandon it to those who hate it or would remake it without memory. Patriotism is not the enemy of justice. It is the soil in which justice grows. And until America relearns how to love itself honestly, neither worshipping nor despising what it is, it will continue mistaking contempt for clarity and division for virtue. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video and share our passion for defending the true faith with a touch of humor, smash that like button. Share this video with your fellow troublemakers and subscribe so you never miss an episode. As Chesterton once said, a madman is not someone who has lost his reason. A madman is someone who has lost everything except his reason. So, let's keep our reason and our faith intact together. Thanks for listening. God bless you, and may the good Lord be praised.